It's a good one. This is our tribal leaders panel, and we're going to be talking about a lot of challenges and a lot of success stories in Indian country, not necessarily related to gaming. So with me right now, we have Francis Alvarez, and we have Justin Barnett. I'm Chairwoman of the Tribal Gaming Protection Network, and Justin is the treasurer of the Eastern Shawnee tribe. Got to say that part first. Thank you both for being here. Going to close this one out strong.
And short.
Yeah, we're gonna shorten this because of the MacBook giveaway that David has so generously donated.
Yeah, we're competing against that. Thanks, Dave.
So the first thing that I think we really want to cover and look over is the challenges that we have in Indian country with governance. And I would just love to hear from both of you. It could be within the tribe or between tribal governments and the state, but what are some of the big challenges that Indian country is facing right now with governance?
Plenty, right? We have plenty of challenges right now. In the first two sessions, we heard a lot about sovereignty, so that's always key, is there's always a threat against our tribe's sovereignties. But we're also facing other challenges like land acquisition, the big land back, our MMIP, which is the missing and murdered indigenous people, opioid challenges. There's plenty. But when I think of challenges in our tribal governments, I like to kind of take it back to the basics and think about how do we overcome those challenges? And we start with building our internal relationships, tribal to tribal relationships. We talk a lot about building relationships with our federal government, with our state governments, but we really, in order for us to be stronger as one big nation, we need to build back that trust and confidence in each other, because we will face these external threats. We will face these external special interest groups. And in order for us to face them head on, we need to be one strong force. So challenges are many, but together we're stronger. It really is true at the end of the day when we're facing them.
What's, just out of curiosity, I guess, what's the solution to that? Because I definitely see, we see tribes that totally band together when there's special interests going against sovereignty, but when it's something where tribes can really help each other, whether it's financially or support with other government pieces, I guess what's the solution to working together? Actually, do you have that at the tip of your tongue?
So I can kind of take that a little bit, so I'm from Oklahoma, so I'll just talk kind of about our challenges with governance real quick. And then, in Oklahoma, we have a governor who is fighting the reservation statuses that have been confirmed. So then the tribes have to deal with, how do we govern a jurisdiction that we haven't historically governed before? So how we have to update our codes. But, I will say in our situation where, we're talking about sports betting, it was really helpful to go to see NIGA and go to California and learn how they do their compacting. It's very different from us. And so I think we can learn, from each other, but also don't narrow it down to just your state. And I think that's kind of where we get. Sometimes we have all these state associations. And so we talk in the state, but we can learn from other jurisdictions and other states and, take away key lessons there. I don't know if Francis has anything to add to that.
Well, yes, that's spot on. Collaborating. I just learned, I did not attend IGA's mid-year conference, but I learned out of that came a joint task force between IGA, which is the Indian Gaming Association, and NCAI. So there's a joint task force there to fight against sovereignty, tribal sovereignty, to put policies in place for protection. So that's a perfect example of how we can solve that crisis.
Awesome. That's actually pretty. I didn't know that, actually. So looking at educational challenges, there's educational challenge. I guess when we're looking at in this type of conference where we're looking at, okay, we want to educate people about tribal culture. What are the challenges there, and how do we solve that?
I think it was mentioned earlier. I believe Oscar, in your first two sessions today, Oscar talked about his best partnerships and the worst partnerships. And a big takeaway for me was stay at the tribal property you're doing business with. That was a big takeaway. But we're tribes. We're more than gaming. We're farmers. We have wineries. We're golf pros. Like, we are so diversified economically, and that opens the flood of vendors that want to work with us. So I like to think it's important to educate them for their sake and for ours, to help the awareness, the cultural awareness. We're not just protecting our businesses. When you come to work for tribal nations, it's not just the business we're protecting. We're protecting our culture. We're protecting our values. We're protecting our traditions. So when you talk about education, educating our partners, our vendors, our associates about tribal nations, it really comes down to the core for us. And like I said, it goes both ways. A lot of tribes, a lot of our jurisdictions have their own policies, they have their own laws, and we want to protect you against that. We want to help mitigate those compliance risks. When you work for a tribal gaming property, do you know that some tribes require you to apply for a business license? Do you also know that all tribes, all gaming operations require you to apply for a vendor license? Well, but depending on the service. So these are the things that we need to stop and help inform and make you aware of. And together, once you are fully educated and informed, together we can combat those stereotypes out there. Not every tribe has a chief, for example. That's a common one that we hear often. So working together, helping inform our partners about how to talk tribal goes a long way.
Justin, you have a thought on that?
Well, so I will just say, I think from a culture standpoint, some tribes are very, very guarded, right? So it takes time. Like, you have to build a trust and relationship. Yeah. And then, eventually you may be invited, to participate in cultural activities. We've done that, but it's something that, we had to guard and keep safe because it was being taken away, right? And so I come from a very traditional family. My uncle's a ceremonial chief for our tribe. And so, we do allow a lot of visitors in, but we're very guarded in what we tell them. And then, I think Francis is right. There's easy things you could do, to kind of bridge that gap when you're coming in, like stay at the property. A lot of tribes have cultural centers. Those are open to the public. You could go to those. And then, just as Francis said, not every tribe has a chief. In Oklahoma, we have chiefs, principal chiefs, governors, chairmen, presidents. We kind of have the gamut, but the easy way to know what someone's title is to go to the BIA website and look at the tribal government, the registered leader, and you can easily know their title. And that's just something you could do easy.
Yeah.
I actually I tell a lot of people, especially even at this conference in the last couple of days, people have asked me how do you get started with tribes? And I tell them, in commercial gaming, we have the best product. We do this the best. We do it better than this guy or this company, and we have the best pricing. And here's what our terms are. And the first thing out of your mouth in tribal gaming should be, "Thank you for the time, but can you please tell me about your tribe?" And you should want to care. Even better, a lot of tribes will have, like you said, in the cultural centers or even in the casinos, there's a mural somewhere that shows the history of that tribe. Memorize that. Go and look at it. I'll just tell you a misconception too of when coming into tribal gaming was back in the day in the federal government really persecuting tribes. It wasn't just the federal government. It's the state governments. I can't tell you how many times I've seen state removed water rights from this tribe or state did this to the tribe, and I never really thought about it. And it's something that opens your eyes to that. So thank you for those thoughts on the education of educating others on tribal cultures. I guess the next question is the challenges around educating tribal leaders. What are you guys facing right now? What's the best way to beat that?
I think Justin's working on a really great organization right now, but to me, the goal to success is being prepared. And so working on those succession plans, working on the continuity progress or whatever issues, I think we need to be prepared, put organizations, trainings, mentoring programs in place so that when those opportunities come, we're prepared to step up and take over, no matter who's in the office.
I'll add, I think there's several tribes that are very good about developing executive leadership programs for their properties or for their government side, for the executive, like GM down or tribal administrator down. But we're not good at preparing for tribal council or business committee, right? It's just like, it's a popularity contest. If you're popular, you win. It's not about being the most qualified sometimes. And so, there's a group of us that have identified that. And so I'm not trying to pitch here, so I'm going to not harp on it too long. But, you really, I think if you want to, run for council, like, you need to understand the whole gamut of what you're getting involved in. Like, it's not just, the government. It's running your businesses. It's, calculating investments and your ROI and how do you deploy capital effectively for all entities. Everyone has their needs, but you may not have enough cash, so how do you deploy that wisely? And so, sometimes, the people running for council are not educated on that. They don't have a business background. And so I think that's a challenge, for Indian country as a whole sometimes, because it is political and it's families. And if we're getting like really down to it, right, it's a popularity contest sometimes depending on the environment.
It is. And another good takeaway from that, and for those of you in the audience that are interested in working with tribes, this is just a humanity thing. Treat everyone with respect, because one day they may be the administrative assistant, but the next day they can be the tribal chairperson. So you just never know.
Yeah. I'd like to actually go to, you guys were talking about being prepared for things. Let's talk about the pandemic, which we were all totally prepared for. Are you guys, is Indian country in general still struggling with capacity and workforce issues like the rest of gaming or the rest of the country?
I see some head nods. Yes, absolutely. And what do we do? Really, I don't have a solution for that, or I can speak to a solution because everybody's struggling.
Yeah.
But, maybe we just need to take it back to the basics. Maybe we need to bring back that intergenerational education. So invest in training in your workforce, not only formal education, vocational education, give your team the tools that they need. And because we're tribes and we're traditional, perhaps we could build the bridge between the younger generation and the old and bring back that knowledge. That's just a thought, not really a solution.
No, good. Sorry.
Okay.
I was going to move on to a different. I think that just coming from the outside, there's times also where you can come up and you can show up and say, I've educated these other tribes. I'll freely do this, and there's resistance to, because there's still elements of trust of who is this person, but that I see is opening up more and more, and it's really encouraging. Just being somebody that works in the iGaming industry, and even 3 years ago trying to talk to Southern Californian tribes that were just like, we aren't doing any of this at all, ever. Don't talk to us, leave. And then having that come back around to where, okay, we were kind of kidding about that. 26 and 27 are over. Let's have coffee. Oscar touched on something earlier today as well, and it was just really about the opioid crisis, and we don't really think about that when there is some form of a crisis anywhere really all over the United States. We also don't really think of how that really affects tribal communities. It's definitely there's a resource issue there. What are some of the challenges that have there been? I also see more and more tribes actually talking more about, hey, we're dealing with this, we see this, and we see those conversations starting to happen quite a bit. What are the challenges you guys are facing with that?
Yeah, I can just speak to that. So we're starting to see that some in Oklahoma. So our tribe, we have a counselor on contract because the tribe doesn't. I'm about liability, right? So I don't want to have the liability at the tribal government level. And then we just, employed a tribal member or contracted a tribal member to work with the youth on opioid addictions. We're starting to see that more and more amongst our youth. And, the thing is like there's these grants out there, but they're competitive. And so you got to compete against other tribes for them, right? So it's not a formula-based funding. And so if you're a tribe that doesn't have the cash, the resources or gaming or something to pay for this, like, how do you get it done? And how do you help the youth? And so we've been working with the other tribes, and we actually just this last week actually we did a youth traveling basketball team. So it's all Native youth in the communities, Native coaches, to try to keep them busy when they're not in school and doing extracurricular activities. And then our tribe also implemented an enrichment program through our Health and Social Services Department, where we'll pay X amount of dollars for any child, regardless of age, to do extracurricular like dance, ballet, football, whatever, all the way down to like 2 years old if they want to do ballet.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we've done the last couple of years.
That's cool. How's that working? Like, can you see the changes yet? I mean, is there positive impact?
Yes, it's still hard. So for us to get it out, most of our tribe doesn't live around the complex. And so the only real way that's been communicated is like the newsletter. So we're still trying to get that information out there. I mean, it's more local at this point, but it's a nationwide program.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Very cool.
That. And and I think Joe from earlier spitted out a few statistics on that. There is a disproportionate rate of the crisis affecting Native Americans. And yes, we're all dealing with it. It's not something that's affecting gaming per se. However, a lot of our employees, a lot of the outside companies that unfortunately bring in or don't add to the solution. So I think we're in Indian country, unfortunately, we're all personally affected by it some way or another. So it's important that we keep discussing it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'd like to just go through a couple, get some examples of, this is kind of one of them, sorry, because you just brought it up, success stories. What's going on right now that we can really take a look at, that outsiders can take a look at and look at, hey, I could help with this, or how does somebody get involved?
Success story.
I know, I'm trying to think of it too.
I'm drawing a blank. However, going back to working with Indian country, I would not only Google the tribe, go to their culture center, look up who's in leadership, but expand your knowledge and get involved. Get involved with their organizations, with their local organizations. Find out what's important to that tribe. For social, and I'll just throw out a couple, for social justice issues, Illuminative, they're doing some amazing things on combating stereotypes and things like that. We also have organizations that are promoting travel and tourism within Indian country. So if you yourself are interested in touring the Indian country and visiting the tribes, visiting certain resources the tribes are offering. IANTA is the American Indian Alaskan Native Tourism Association. I'm not affiliated with any of these, but they're just, some really powerful organizations that are out there. So just align yourself with these organizations. And then IGA, of course, is a strong Indian Gaming Association. So just align yourself with these organizations that are doing really, really well in Indian country. And just get familiar, join their association groups. That's what I would recommend. Mm-hmm. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the task force that IGA and NCI are doing, that's going to be big.
Yeah, I got to look that one up.
Yeah. Yes.
GGPN Women's Symposium.
Oh.
Yeah, she is on that one.
Yes. And to everyone in the audience, we have a Women in Tribal Gaming Symposium that our Tribal Gaming Protection Network does. Thank you, Anika, for participating in that. And I would be remiss if I didn't also call out Dave Viapondo, our Vice Chair of the Tribal Gaming Protection Network. The Women's Symposium really is an event where the women in our organization can get involved and grow support for each other. It is not just for women. However, it is primarily women, but what man wouldn't want to surround themselves by 300 women? So I highly encourage you to look it up and join us.
It's very empowering.
Yes.
Very empowering.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Thank you for the plug.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? Missy.
Justin,
Oh gosh, Missy.
I think we touched on a lot today that tribes are obviously powerful in gaming and they're diversifying a little bit. Your tribe recently expanded into consulting, small business consulting. And
Yes.
You can talk a little bit about that. I just think it's an interesting venture for the tribe.
Yeah, so we started Eastern Shawnee Company, so our 8A application was submitted last week on the 29th of February, I guess. And so we got really fortunate in that. Once again, that's like back to our networking. We were able to meet that leadership team that we hired through TEPA. And so TEPA is owned by the Pasquinta Bandonawaki Indians. And then they had left and went to work for another tribe at that time. And so now we have this 8A team, and they've talked to Anika's tribes of Mashantucket's Command Holdings about doing a joint venture. We have a joint venture with TEPA. And, they want to offer that as a service because we realize not every tribe has gaming or they're not in an ideal location to do gaming. And so the 8A program is a great way to diversify into multiple different business lines. Unfortunately, the ANCs really kick our butt when it comes to winning 8A contracts. We haven't quite got to that level yet. But TEPA went from a $50 million company to a $280 million company in 5 years. Doing 8A contracts. So it can easily surpass, your gaming revenues. And so we're really excited. Our executive team really wants to help tribes that want to do 8A. And so I would encourage Missy, if you know anybody that wants to do that, reach out to us. And I'll be more than happy to connect them to our executive team there.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions?
Francis, where can someone go if they want to get involved and donate or participate and connect with tribal organizations? Is there a guide, someone can look at?
Not that I'm aware of,
No,
but that's
I
a
don't think
great
so.
idea.
I was just gonna
It's a
say-
great idea, but no, there's not.
Turn the mics off. Let's discuss this in private.
It's a business idea. Everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's a really good idea.
It is. And to piggyback off of that, if you want that foot in the door, you're all, supporting this conference with your displays here. Why not do it for a tribal organization? You're going to meet a ton of amazing people. So I don't know where to go, but there's tons of organizations out there. For gaming, it would be IGA.
And I will say, even just going back from the organizations, even the tribal governments, we're doing a benefit for Make-A-Wish. There's several tribes that do that. Muskogee Nation does that as well. And then we had some vendors donate to, we had a youth activity where we invited all the youth in the community, and we had a lot of vendors donate to that. So you can even get involved at the government level as far as, if you want to be involved in Indian country.
Fun.
And if you ever want to get involved or donate to a not-for-profit native-owned wolf sanctuary, let me know. I know
I think all three of us run a nonprofit, so any of us will take the money.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you so much for the honesty.